Anxious and avoidant people sometimes have similar wounds. They just deal with it differently. Like they've learned to cope with it differently, but the wound or the fear is still the same.
There's an art to dealing with conflict and handling it. And I think it shows up in all areas of life, at work and your relationships. And I think the more that you can deal with it, it can bring you closer to that person and stay in that connection.
I'm reflecting on how important it is for anyone who's in a relationship to know the wounds of the other person, to know the inner child experience of the other person.
Once I started asking better questions about what was going on internally with myself, then I was able to start asking those questions externally to other people.
I chased a lot of things from an inauthentic place for a long time. It was really when in our relationship that I was really challenged to be my most authentic self through the good and the bad. And it's really paid off in our relationship to be true to myself. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Heal with Kat podcast. My name is Kat. I am your host, and welcome to this week's episode. Y'all, it is a milestone episode for me because I have now reached my 100th episode. This is my 100th episode on the Heal with Kat podcast. I can't believe I made it this far. And to celebrate this milestone, and also for another very fun reason, I have somebody really, really special on the podcast this week. Somebody that all of you have been wanting to have on the podcast for a long time. My number one requested guest. I have my fiancé, Tyler Christian, here on the podcast. Babe, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm excited to have you.
Yeah, excited to see where the conversation goes. Congratulations on 100.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really interesting because, a huge reason why I even made it to my 100th episode is because 3 or so years ago, when I first started the podcast, I asked you to come on and then you said, I will come on when you make it to your 100th episode. Why would you give me a challenge like that? I mean, I will say it definitely kept me motivated. Like it's a huge reason I'm here. Yeah. But why?
I think at the time I saw something on YouTube, or it was a clip where someone was talking about, if you get to 100 of anything and iterate over time, you'll really improve a lot. So I think at the time, I wanted to share that with you. And 100 seems, like you said, it seems attainable. Yeah. It doesn't seem crazy. So I felt like it was a good little challenge to give you. And I know you like your challenges, so a little inspiration there for you.
Yeah, I like I said, I will say that it was a huge motivator for me to keep going because, we keep our relationship really private, but we've come so far as a couple together. We've grown so much in this relationship. It's the healthiest relationship that I have ever been in or have really ever seen, experienced, known in my life. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of people have, we can share a lot from our experience in our relationship with people who want to learn more about that.
Yeah, for sure. I hope it helps people. I mean, I've learned, I continue to still learn, in this relationship. So yeah, if it can help people, I'm all about it.
Well, let's take the listener back to the beginning a little bit of the story of how we met. Mm-hmm. I think everyone loves to hear a good how we met story. Yeah. And our story really is the definition of an intentional slow burn. I think you probably say it best. I'll maybe fill in the details, but how would you recall the story of how we met?
Yeah, I think, our first few months, it didn't feel like dating, and it really felt like becoming, best friends. And I think we didn't really rush anything. We were living in San Diego at the time, in an apartment complex, and it was during COVID. And so we were in the apartment complex a lot, I felt like. Yeah. And, at the time, that's when I got my dog during COVID, and then you got the brother dog. So, with that kind of naturally, I think we just started spending more time together with friends and in the apartment complex. And then over time, we just started spending more time, just you and I together. And I think through that time, we started to be vulnerable with each other and kind of share who we are, and we had a lot in common on the surface with hiking, yoga, meditation. So it was a natural, easy, safe, comfortable to be with each other. And I think over time, once we started to share those more vulnerable moments and, we allowed the space to share those things and not just share them, but continue to be a safe place for each other. I think it just just grew us closer through those vulnerable moments. And we started to, like you said, take it really slow. But I think that through taking it slow and really getting to know each other, it really built that foundation that we kind of fall back on to this day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will definitely say that like I had never been with someone romantically where we had been friends before.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's natural, especially in a relationship where you're going to spend your life with someone, that the romantic parts of it will kind of ebb and flow based on life and your mood and your energy and what you're moving through.
Yeah.
But when we have some of those more like ebbs where we're kind of going through things, I know that I have somebody that I can laugh with, hang out with. I love spending time with you. And it's because we like to do a lot of the same things. And that friendship is something that we fall back on.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you say that, what comes up to me, and I remember also seeing this thing, is that, the person that you want to spend your life with and spend the most time with is usually the person that you can do nothing with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that that's such an interesting thing to think about is just hanging around on the couch all day and just being able to kind of like let yourself relax around that other person, I think is such a important thing to think about.
Mm-hmm.
If there's someone that you can spend your time doing nothing with and be totally content with, I think is such a powerful
Mm-hmm.
thing to think about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's something that's coming up for me that I want to touch on too, in terms of like how we met in our story, that I think a lot of the female listeners will like resonate with, because a lot of my community, the ladies over there, but we hear a lot as women, let the man lead, like take the direction of the man if you want to be in your feminine, and like, but as women, we like see the vision of what's possible. And I think there were a lot of moments where I had feelings in my eyes, like a little bit sooner than you did, more romantically, at least. Like I could see the vision of like, this is becoming something a little bit different.
Uh-huh.
And I also had the benefit of like channeling with my guides and hearing your last name. And so I had this like inner knowing that this was going to potentially become something. But again, I was aware of like the free will and the choice that we both have. Just because you get intuitive information doesn't mean it's always going to happen. You kind of have to leave room for like two people to choose the relationship. And so I think I'm really proud of myself, and I would love to ask you this question too, but I'm really proud of myself for like leaning back, trusting the vision of what I felt in my heart that we were going to both become potentially, and not trying to force a narrative, like force you into something or make you feel pressured.
Yeah.
Like I let you every day, you guys, at like 5 p.m., I would get a text. Do you want to go get kava? Do you want to go to Chipotle? Like almost every day. And like it's not like the stereotypical like being pursued, like what we see in the movies, but like for me, I definitely felt like you were pursuing me. I definitely felt like you wanted to spend time with me, even if it wasn't always romantic at first. There was a desire to have that connection. And I think also another moment that stands out too is like we were sitting at the fireplace one day and you said to me, I think you're being authentic and vulnerable with me, but I can feel that you have like a guard up. Like, and it was true. I was really wanting you to see whatever I wanted you to see because I was navigating these like intense feelings. And then I think it was like that night that I went home and I texted Sophie and I was like, I think I'm like really falling for this guy because he wants the real me. He doesn't want the facade. So yeah, I'd be curious, like when you look back on that time that we were really developing from friendship to romance, like, is there a moment that you're really proud of? What was your intention with showing up? Like anything that brings up for you?
Yeah. Well, you said Chipotle and kava every day. So I don't know if that is a representation of me or you, but I mean, I think honestly, what you're saying is what I think about is like, yeah, like we would go to the fireplace a lot. We would hang out a lot, and it was becoming a daily thing. And I think, like you're saying, you felt safe around me, but equally I felt safe around you. And I think that when I think about being safe around somebody, I think, first of all, I think about the nervous system. It's like my nervous system felt relaxed. I didn't feel on guard. And I think that, as cheesy as it might sound, like there was a groundedness in your voice, I think that just relaxed my body. And when you go through, your day and your nervous system is on all day and you feel on guard, I think that my nervous system probably craved being around you because I felt relaxed. I felt at ease. And I started to just feel like I can share things with you because of the way you are. I think that, everybody who knows you knows that you can come to you and kind of share things that might be uncomfortable because you have kind of this ease about you. Like you're not going to react and like try to change me or try to, make me into somebody that I'm not. I think it allowed me to share things with you that I just felt safe sharing those things with you. And I think that, it's like you want to be around more people like that, and especially your significant other. So at the time, I think it was just kind of building that and understanding like, oh, okay, I can share these very deeply wounded or vulnerable pieces of me with this person, and she's not going to try to change me or judge me. It was just kind of like you held the space for me to be who I really was.
I mean, I felt the same way. Like, I felt like I still feel that way. Like, you've seen all the parts of me, and I don't feel like I have to be any different. I can just be messy and we'll figure it out, Whereas I never felt that in the past.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I think, talking about the nervous system too is like such a good topic because a lot of us, I know a lot of women that run on hypervigilance, being like hypervigilant of how they're being perceived, or if they, if the guy thinks that they look hot enough or whatever. I mean, I always laugh because like when you and I met, I had the worst acne I've ever had as an adult. I wasn't like in the greatest shape ever, but I definitely wasn't like taking care of myself. And like, I was in a really emotionally like weird place post-divorce, trying to figure out like what I'm going to do with my life, like where my career is going to go.
Yeah.
And yet like we fell for each other in like those times. We were just there for each other.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we enjoyed each other's company. And I think that like, yeah, that's kind of the foundation that we talked about at the beginning is like, it wasn't like all sunshine and rainbows. It was just kind of getting to know each other and seeing where it would take us.
Mm-hmm. Your mom said something to me when I first met her in Ventura, when we went to go see Trevor Hall, which we bonded over a lot too, is Trevor Hall and his music and his concerts.
Yeah.
Your mom said that we just work. There's no like logical explanation. It's just like, we just work. And I think when you meet people like that in life, not just, romantic relationships, but like friendships or colleagues, like when it just works with someone, like you don't want to let that go because not all relationships work like that. Yeah. That was like the biggest compliment to me, that your mom was seeing us for the first time and was saying, you guys just work. And I could tell she just saw something in us. And that really warmed my heart, honestly, to get that kind of support from your mom.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we work, but there is kind of like, if you reverse engineer it and think about it, like there's reasons why we work.
Yeah.
You talk a lot about the avoidant and the anxious and whatnot. So I think that there are certain reasons why we just work. For me, logically, like trying to think about it, like from a logical standpoint and piece together, like, why do we work? There's stuff that I think, or reasons why I think we do.
Yeah. Well, and you brought something up really interesting too about the avoidant and anxious attachment, because that's really something I wanted to talk about, because we have that classic avoidant anxious stance sometimes, where we're learning how to show up more securely. I think one of the things that you all can hear for us is we're really saying that something we're really proud of in this relationship is our emotional connection and our friendship. Like that's something we've done really well. But in that, we've had a lot of growing to do. We've really embraced each other for the best and the most challenging parts of each other as well. And I think many couples struggle with the attachment part of relationships, because I think when the honeymoon phase fades out and then you're left with like real life settling in, then you're faced with how the other person copes with things when they're not on this like dopamine rush or like high of, getting into the relationship.
Yeah.
You identify as avoidant. I identify as disorganized / anxious. I like lean more towards the anxious, but we both value growth. I remember we went on a walk one day to the beach and you pulled out Brene Brown's values list and you were like, circle your top 5, and you circled your top 5. And we had a couple that were the same on there, but the one that really stood out to me was that we both valued growth. And I remember thinking, I think this means that this relationship can truly go the distance because we both will always try to be growing.
Yeah.
So in saying all of that, what has your experience been like being the avoidant in a relationship with an anxious person? And how have you noticed your ability to handle conflict change from when we first started dating in that?
Yeah, I think when we first met, I didn't know how to handle conflict. I really only knew how to avoid it. So I think at the time I skimmed that book Attached, and I think that was kind of my first understanding of what even attachment styles are. And I think when you're not in a relationship, you might not really focus on it, or it might not be important. Although it could certainly be important to learn that when you are single. But through our relationship, I mean, it comes up so much, it's like, we're not perfect. We have our arguments. And I think this was such an important thing for you. Like, you knew about the different styles. And I was kind of like coming into, okay, what is avoidant even? What do you mean avoid? Like, I hardly knew what these things were. So yeah, over our kind of arguments, like you would say, you're kind of avoiding the situation. And then over time, I think I was like, oh, okay, actually I am. Okay, well, let me get curious about that and start to understand why. What is it doing to me? Again, the nervous system, like how does my nervous system start to show up in conflict? And okay, it avoids. Okay, well, why would I avoid situation? What does it feel like to not avoid it? So it's like these things that I start to ask questions about, because I'm super curious about how to grow together side by side, rather than, me not caring about it. I think it will help keep that connection. Mm-hmm. Is something that I've learned also from you, is you can be in conflict and still be in connection at the same time. And I didn't really know what that meant until you kind of help guide that path.
Mm. Yeah. And I think like being an avoidant, it gets a bad rap a lot. Like, a lot of people shit on avoidant people, and I don't really understand why, because at the end of the day, the anxious and avoidant people sometimes have similar wounds. They just deal with it differently. Like, they've learned to cope with it differently, but the wound or the fear is still the same.
Yeah.
What have you like learned about your biggest fears in terms of diving deeper into your avoidance?
Yeah, I mean, I think I keep coming back to the nervous system, because I think that's just it's just easier for me to kind of like feel it inside of my body, what's going on. And mm-hmm. I think for if you think about, we get into a conflict or a situation happens, like inside my body, it feels like, get out of there. It's not safe. And if I avoid the situation and maybe just completely avoid it, that'll feel safe for me. Mm-hmm. So when I think about, my childhood, and I think about earlier memories that I had, like, that was something that I relied heavily on to keep me safe.
To keep you alive. To
keep me alive. Yeah. It was a survival mechanism. Yeah. I mean, that's when I think about avoiding a situation, I think, okay, that's me trying to survive as, a 5-year-old or 6-year-old or whatever age it is, that kept me safe, and it helped me avoid certain feelings. So now, as a 34-year-old trying to navigate a relationship, I want to stay in connection with you when my nervous system is saying, get out of there, like the 5-year-old version of me. So now it's like learning how to sit with those feelings, learning how to voice what I'm feeling to you. And again, I think that's when we can look at the foundation that we built together around safety and around that emotional, I can share these things with you and I'm not going to feel like you're going to react a certain way or whatever it may be. I think that through time, it just kind of like develops that resilience in me instead of saying, okay, I just avoid the situation, but let's figure out how we can navigate this together. Like I said, side by side. So yeah, that's what comes up.
No, it's really, really well said. And I think it's really impressive, just like your personal awareness around it. For me as an anxious person, I think that the right way to handle things is just to address it immediately. There's this anxiety in me that if we don't fix it, that you're going to leave, or that something bad's going to happen, or that I'm not going to be lovable, or I'm going to be left alone. And I've had to do my work on learning how to regulate my nervous system and not feel so anxious that I want to leave, that I want to check out, like that. It's so much for my nervous system to handle. And really just learning the power of like deep breathing, a good walk, a little space, like journaling, just being able to tap back into the self, which I think you were talking about really well.
Yeah, you're more anxious.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if I'm avoidant and you're anxious, like it's difficult. It's like a dance that we're playing where I want to leave the situation, but you are like trying to solve it. And I think for me, like that would almost, at the beginning when we were trying to figure out what was, how to navigate these, like it would kind of irritate me that you were trying to solve it so quickly, because I needed, a couple hours to just figure out like how I was feeling and how to navigate that. So I think it's also interesting to think about, like, from my perspective, this is what was going on. And I just needed kind of like a space to kind of breathe and figure out, not be reactive, and kind of allow a little bit of space between what we just went through, the argument or whatever it may be. But then, it's respecting your partner and understanding, like, from your side, you wanted to resolve it as quickly as possible. And it's like kind of sports analogy. It was like post-game film where we would sit down and talk about how we were feeling and kind of what was coming up during that time. I think really helped us grow for the next event that would happen. And I think it's vulnerable sharing that stuff with people and kind of like, hey, this is what was going on during that time. But I think it just, that the post-game film recap like helps a lot too, to like, after you go through something with somebody, to kind of sit down and kind of like recap it. I think really, really helps.
Yeah, I think, that hindsight, is always 2020 when you look back on it. And I think after we've gone through enough conflicts together, big and small ones, that, there's usually this like, I need to regulate myself enough to give you the space that you need. You need to regulate yourself enough to give yourself the time to be ready to process everything. And usually we come back together and someone will put out an olive branch and be like, hey, like, can we talk about this? Which, it's never easy to do. It's never like easy to like be the vulnerable person, to like extend the olive branch and be like, are you done? Like, can we talk about this? Can we make up? And then, each person needs something different to make up. Like, I always need a hug after we make up. That's not a non-negotiable for you, but you do it anyways because you love me. Whereas like you need a little bit of space and just like relax yourself, So I think really, like, I'm reflecting on how important it is for anyone who's in a relationship to know the wounds of the other person, to know the inner child experience of the other person. And, obviously you can only get to know someone as deep as they've met themselves. So like, that's also something to look for in a relationship. Like, how deeply has this person met themselves? Because that will really be reflected in the relationship in terms of the emotional maturity, the conflict, the desire to connect and repair.
Yeah.
I always think about how Dr. Gabor Mate says that if you can repair really well, it almost like cancels out the conflict, because the repair is so much stronger than the conflict that you have with someone.
Yeah, definitely. The repair. Yeah, I think the repair is certainly stuff I'm still trying to work on.
I think I'm still trying to work on it too, though.
Because I don't like it to feel robotic,
Right.
It's like when I think about the nonviolent communication or stuff, it just feels super robotic. So like, I want it to feel natural repair and not like a robot or like something I read from a book where it's like, do A, B, C.
Right.
I want it to feel like me, like this is how I would repair. So I don't know.
You're really good at repair by joking around. That's how I know that you've moved out of the conflict, is that you're kind of, your energy's lighter. You kind of joke around a little bit. Sometimes it takes me a hot second to like take to your humor and be like, oh, he's over it. Like, it's fine. Like you'll be like, are you going to be like that? Like you make a joke about my mood and I'll be like, oh, just let it go. Like, it's not that big of a deal, Because it's, these little things that we argue about, like, it really, really aren't huge. They're just like annoyances. A lot of times it's highly dictated by where our nervous system is at that day, what kind of day we've had, like what we're in the mood to take care of, what we're not in the mood to take care of. Like, have the dogs been too loud that day and we're both overstimulated? Like, that's a lot of the stuff I feel like that we get on each other about.
Yeah. I agree. And I think that's something that takes time with, we're still learning how to navigate definitely some of that, it's like if I was at work and I had, a conversation with my boss or something kind of threw me off, like you're learning and probably like, oh, okay, he had a bad conversation. Like I'll give him a space, or vice versa. It's like, maybe you go through something and I'm like, oh, okay. Like you just went through something. I know you like to kind of talk about it, maybe like you said, maybe a hug or something. So there's certain things I think that, over time you live with somebody. So you kind of understand, whether to give them space or not, and kind of like play that game and that dance of like, yes, no, what do I do?
Yeah. And I feel like for the listener too, like give yourself time to figure that out, because you're not going to figure that out overnight. You're going to be put in situations with your partner over and over again where you're going to have to navigate different things and different experiences, and you're going to learn new things about your partner. I mean, we've been together for 3 years and we just had a conversation last week about how we're learning all these new things about each other, our childhoods, like things that we're discovering about ourselves. We're discovering how it shows up in the relationship. And so I just think like, the more that you can be respectful and honor your partner's experience, like we never call each other names. We never like yell or disrespect each other. Like we always treat each other as like, we love each other. We respect each other. We're not going to dig each other down because we're upset about something. We're in control of our emotions and we're not going to make the other person like belittle each other,
Yeah. I mean, it reminds me of the other day when I was walking out the door and I kind of like the door just kind of slammed and you felt safe enough to say, hey, like, slam the door kind of brings up this for you. Mm-hmm. And I think for me, it's like something, I didn't mean to slam it. I was just walking out the door. Mm-hmm. So it's like being vulnerable and safe enough to have those conversations, because for one person, it might not mean anything. And the other person, something might come up for them and maybe they don't know why it comes up. Like there's some certain times where I'm in a mood and I'm like, I don't know why I'm feeling this way, or like why I'm in a mood. Mm-hmm. And just sharing that with your partner of like, hey, I'm not in the mood to talk about this today. Mm-hmm. And feeling safe enough, I guess. Safety is an important thing for me.
Yeah, well, also you responded really well to me calling, because I told you I'm really nervous to tell you this because I don't want you to think you did anything wrong. But when you slam the door, like it really triggers me for some reason. Well, I know the reason why. Like it really triggers me. Like, do you mind? And you were just like, oh, I didn't even mean to. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, I'll make better effort on that. Like it's the little things. Whereas like I feel like if we were in an emotionally immature relationship, you'd be like, well, what? Like, why are you accusing me of doing something? And I'd be like, I'm not. I'm just trying to speak up for myself. So there's that like balance, Yeah. There's a balance.
Yeah.
I also think too, when we're navigating conflict, like taking responsibility is also a really big one that I think people struggle with. Like what's the right way to take responsibility, like, cause I feel like in relationships of all kind, but especially the people that you're in romantic relationships with, you have to let down your ego. You can't go in with an ego. You can't go in with defense mechanisms. Like, how has your experience changed with taking responsibility in conflict with things? Because I feel like for me, it's been a lot of practice of like, let your ego down, like stop wanting to be right. Just like, this is not about you and me against each other. Like it's about something else, Hey everyone, Kat popping in during the episode today to share that I have something so exciting to announce. I just launched a brand new series of meditations on Insight Timer, the world's #1 meditation app with over 31 million users. I'll be releasing 10 new meditations every month now through August. And the best part? They're totally free, including downloading the app. The guided meditations on Insight Timer aren't just about ancestral healing. They're designed to help you understand how inherited patterns, pain, fears, or choices show up in your everyday life, your relationships, your self-worth, parenting experiences, or even your health. Each one gently helps you untangle those threads so you can move forward feeling more grounded, clear, and connected. Just download the Insight Timer app, search my name, Kat Dow, or click the link in the show notes below. Make sure you're subscribed to my email newsletter to get updates every month on the new meditations coming to your phone soon. All right, let's get back to the episode.
Yeah, I mean, same for me. I mean, it's a lot like taking, responsibility for what I did. I think it's always tough because it's a little bit of like putting the tail in between my legs and kind of walking back and say, hey, this wasn't right for me to do. And just kind of owning up to it, I think is important. So yeah, I agree with what you said.
Yeah, I also think too, like something that's really helped me is trusting you like fully and trusting that I'm always going to see the best in you, even in a shitty situation. Like I'm always going to assume the best of you. Like I know you, I know your heart, I know your intention, but I also know your wounds. And I also know that like when we act from a place of wounding, sometimes we have to like see that before we see like anything, we want to see anything else.
Yeah.
So I feel like for me, it's always viewing you in like a positive light. Like if you piss me off about something, I'm just going to be like, of course, I'm going to process how I feel about it with my own emotions. But then when it comes to addressing it together, I'm always going to assume the best of you. I'm always going to want to try to understand because it's actually not as personal as we think it is. Like the things that happen with other people, it's a lot of what's happening in their own world. And then it's getting projected out into the nearest person around, which for us, it's each other.
Yeah, I think for me, the more I understand, the less the emotion is on top of that. So if you get angry or I get angry, or if there's something going on, it's like the more that I kind of ask, hey, what's going on with this? Or kind of like just kind of get super curious about the reason behind it, I think has allowed me to, my emotion kind of goes down a little bit more, whether it's irritated or angry or whatever it is.
What's something that you're really proud of that you've learned to achieve or accomplish within conflict, like a growth thing that you're really proud of when it comes to conflict?
Just dealing with it. I mean, usually, I'm not perfect at it, but I feel like now I am trying to get to a place where I can deal with it, bring it up in a respectful way at the right time. There's an art to dealing with conflict and handling it. And I think it shows up in all areas of life, at work, in your relationships. And I think the more that you can deal with it, it can bring you actually closer to that person and stay in that connection, kind of like what we talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. When before I might just kind of completely avoid it because I didn't want to hurt their feelings or whatever. Mm-hmm. Maybe I didn't want to express how I felt, but I think learning that you can get closer to somebody through those experiences.
Yeah. Well, we've talked a lot about conflict.
Yeah.
Which it's funny because we don't actually have that much conflict, but we spend a lot of time talking about it. But I think another really important aspect of our relationship that we've kind of really learned to master is the idea that our relationship is you as an individual person, me as an individual person, and then how we get to show up for the relationship together. For me, for the listener, I had deep wounds of codependency, deep patterns of codependency, some emotional neglect, attachment stuff. Meanwhile, you love your autonomy, you love your individuality. And so really like attuning to each other in that way, someone who needs and likes a lot of space and someone who doesn't, that was kind of like a dance as well. What have we done or learned to do in our relationship that helps us not lose ourselves in each other?
Sounds pretty simple, but I think we just take time for ourselves, like in whatever we do, whether it's our routines, our work, our friendships outside of each other. I think if we take the time to nourish those, I think it's helped, I think. So I would say that's really allowed us to kind of be our own person is to take time to ourselves.
Yeah, I definitely never viewed that as like a strength until this relationship. I always thought that was a threat to connection. If you wanted to go and do something on your own, I viewed that as like, oh my God, he doesn't want to connect with me. But like actually what I view now is that like when you go out into the world and you do your own thing and I go out into my world and do my own thing, then we bring things together in the relationship to talk about, to connect on, to keep the conversation going. We spend a lot of time with each other. Yeah. Like we're together, like you work from home, I work from home, and like we don't really have a huge community in Denver. So we're just like with each other all the time. So I think it's like, you know, I go to yoga or I go to work out, you go to work out, you go on a walk in the morning, like I'll go on the walk in the evening. Like we both have our own passions that we're diving into. So I think like that gives us our own autonomy in the relationship.
Yeah, I think also it allows us to show up better for each other also. You know, it's like if I can go work out or if I'm going to go on a hike or whatever it is, like I feel like that alone time re-energizes me and makes me, you know, miss you maybe if I was to spend a couple days, like a work event or whatever it is. So it allows us to actually come back together, like you said, and kind of like build something more intimate and stronger and kind of just share, hey, this is what I went through. And it's just rather than being attached at the hip, you know, I think that there's no individuality in that.
What are some of the things that you're moving through in your growth journey right now that are really exciting you? Like what are the things, maybe the modalities, maybe the patterns that you're looking into? Like what's really exciting you about where you're at on your healing and growth journey right now?
You know, I think there's things that I've struggled for, I mean, the longest time in my kind of journey. I just feel like I'm kind of at the inflection point of breaking through those. And I think that, you know, through internal family systems, I mean, is a huge one for me. Learning more about the different parts of me that show up, I think is allowing me to learn a lot more about myself. And just putting myself in situations that 5 years ago, I would never want to be in those situations. But I think the public speaking thing, I mean, you know, being on camera, like this stuff is uncomfortable and it's not something I particularly like. But I think putting myself in these situations is helping me kind of get over that fear that I had as a kid. And I think through learning why it's allowed me to show up how I want to as a 34-year-old man.
Yeah, parts work, internal family systems, I know has been really, really big for you. Yeah. What are some of like the biggest benefits that you've seen from doing that work?
You know, I think there's certain parts of me that show up and I never really understood why. And I think through kind of taking the time to really learn about the modality, but also learn about why certain parts of me show up has allowed me to understand myself better. I think it's one of the things that kind of covers a lot of things that I believe in. And it's just, you know, asking deeper questions about certain things of why they happen. And that's, I'm always super curious. And I think that it kind of quenches that thirst for the questions that I ask.
Well, I was going to say, you are probably the best question asker that I've ever met. Like, you've always been really good at asking questions. Where does that come from? Like, were you always like that? Or is that something that you've developed in adulthood that's helped you get more connection with people?
I mean, I think about school. Like in school, I would never ask questions. I was always the person who would sit in the back of the class and not feel safe to ask questions and not feel comfortable. And I think over the past probably 10 or 15 years, when I started asking questions about myself, you know, why I was doing certain things and, you know, having somebody help me bring things to light and kind of like the consciousness, you know, kind of like help elevate my consciousness about certain things that were happening and why they were happening, helped me. I think once I started asking better questions about what was going on internally with myself, and then I was able to start asking those questions externally to other people.
It's rubbed off on me too. Because I feel like I used to go into conversations with people and just do a lot of like talking at people. Like these are my thoughts that are coming through my brain and I like wanted to share. Yeah. And I think there's like a time and a place for that. But you've really taught me how to slow down ask questions, get more curious. Because it's so funny. My dad says the minute I was born, I was the most curious baby ever. My eyes were, looking everywhere and, wanting to like figure out. My parents used to joke that I would always say, why to everything. But I think I lost that as I got older because it threatened something for me. Maybe like that vulnerability of asking questions like wasn't safe. But then like, I feel like because you've really set the tone for like asking questions is okay in this relationship. That now I'm more like, oh, I'd rather ask a question than just defend myself by saying, what I think right out the gate.
Yeah. I'm always under the impression that everybody has the answers inside of themselves as well. So, and I think it empowers other people. Like if I was to ask you a question and you were to come up with the solution for yourself, like that's empowering and that's coming from you internally, which I think if you come up with the answer, you're more likely to follow through with it. Like if I was to tell you, hey, do this to solve your problems, it's not as meaningful, I don't think, from my experience.
Yeah, I think unless somebody is coming to you and saying, what do you think about this and wanting to hear your opinion, it's probably best that you just like be supportive or take a different position with the way that you're showing up for someone.
Yeah.
And I also think like for me as a woman, like, and in my life, I felt like my voice was very repressed. Mm-hmm. So as a means to counteract that repression, I would just say whatever was on my mind or say how I feel, even if it wasn't warranted. Yeah. And I could feel that people were a little uncomfortable with that at times. And then you get into a professional career where people are wanting to know your opinion. And even then you're like, well, how much do I want to interject my opinion versus like the answers is, in this person, it's just such a fine balance. Yeah. But you really brought that side of me that I feel like I had shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I even face that in my work today where it's, they're looking for the answers. And I say, well, sometimes I just ask a clarifying question or just kind of put it back on them. Mm-hmm. But to your point, if they're looking, for you as the expert, how do you kind of still be the expert, but then also like, figure out if they can answer it themselves as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I also think like, I love when we ask each other like really hard, deep questions. Yeah. Cause I love like getting to those places where we're both like, oh, like what's the growth here, and like learning new things about each other and about ourselves too.
Yeah, definitely kind of teetering that line of like what we know about each other and figuring out if there is like another layer to it.
Or being willing to be really honest with the other person and be like, you're overthinking this. You're doing too much here. Like simplify it, like just, that delicate balance of I notice this person is in a spiral and I want to help them, but like, when do I step in?
Yeah. Like the other day.
Yeah, exactly. What's your hope for the kind of relationship that we're creating long term? We're getting married in October. Yeah. We've been having a really good time planning the wedding too. It's been really fun and we've just both had the same vision. But beyond the wedding, beyond that, like what is your hope for what we're building together?
What you talked about earlier around growth, I think is the thing that I hope we continue to do. I think that once you stop growing, there's a lot of problems that can come with that. So I think as long as we're both individually continuing to grow and which I know your work that you do is just constantly growing and figuring out things. So I don't see that really being a problem, but I think that growth is going to be really important, especially as we step into, next chapter of moving and, kids. I mean, that's a whole nother ball game, but as long as we're continuing to grow together and continuing to kind of learn through those experiences and that foundation that we built, I think is helpful with that.
Yeah. I'll share mine too. I think my hope for our relationship is that we continue to be best friends and really maintain that friendship that we have with each other. I really hope our kids can see that we don't just love each other, but we joke around with each other. We have fun with each other. Like, I think that's probably some of my favorite parts of our relationship. But also I think that we have created an emotional safety with each other that I really hope that we never lose, just the ability to be open and vulnerable with each other and not feel like we're not good enough to be in the relationship because we're moving through something. So yeah. If we're talking to our future kids about love, what would you want them to know about what it takes to be in love or be in a relationship?
Oh man, that's a good question. I think I would want them to know how important it is to understand yourself.
Yeah.
Is probably the thing that comes to mind. I mean, I think that I am able to show up in this relationship because of the work that I've done with myself and trying to be a better person and be a better human and challenge myself outside of the relationship. And I've been able to show up how I want. So I think, if a kid's trying their best and trying to be the best person that they can be by doing the work for themselves, then they're going to attract the type of person. But the more inauthentic, chasing things that they don't need to, I think they're going to attract inauthentic things. Mm-hmm. So the more authentic you can be with who you are, I think the more you'll attract things that are meant for you.
That made me emotional. That was really beautiful. That really was. I also would say the same thing, honestly. I'm not kidding, because for me, I chased a lot of things from an inauthentic place for a long time. And it was really when in our relationship that I was really challenged to be my most authentic self through the good and the bad.
Yeah.
And it's really paid off in our relationship to be true to myself, like I would never want, if we have a daughter, like I would never want her to feel like she has to change herself to be loved. I'd want her to just be her and be loved for who she is. And same thing if we have a son.
Yeah.
Are you excited about being a dad?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nervous?
I think, nervous. I mean, excited, all of it, but I think it will be another challenging thing for sure. I mean, you talk to parents these days and they just, I feel like every parent I talk to is just like so either sleep deprived or like exhausted and all of the above. So yeah, I think it's going to be a challenge, but I think it's going to be a rewarding thing as well. I hear a lot about.
I think a lot about how with children, it's almost like you're reliving your childhood too. Yeah. You get to like relive your childhood. And I wish that I had more fun as a kid. I wish I got to be more of a kid growing up. And I think that with the challenges also come the really exciting, loving moments where you get to share a connection with this, really pure little being who just loves you unconditionally and just wants to like be a kid. And I definitely share the same feelings as you, like nervousness, the challenges, like the unknown of everything, but also like, again, for me, it's about putting us first and like making sure that our relationship is the foundation for a healthy family. And with all of the values that we have, like I kind of think we'll be okay in the end.
Yeah.
You really only have your kids for like 10 years. Because after that, they start having their own individuality and they, then when they reach 15, then they start driving. I mean, feels like you kind of only really have your kids for like 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting. I mean, I think that, as long as we show them that, our relationship is solid and choosing, I would say choosing like honesty over comfort. Yeah. So making sure that they see that and how being honest is really important as well. Mm-hmm. I think, because I mean, everything's going to be uncomfortable, things are going to be all over the place for them, but if they can be honest, I think be comfortable being honest. I don't know if that sounds weird, but
no, it sounds really, it sounds real. Honesty and kindness are like two of the greatest values, I think. If you can be honest and kind about it, what else can you do? The truth is everything. Yeah. Last couple questions. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
What do you wish more couples talked about openly?
It's easy to share like the wins, the highlights, the love. And I don't think enough couples share about the things that they're struggling with. I think it's, for whatever reason, there's a lot of stuff that holds people back from sharing that information. So, if couples can show up messy and kind of share and be comfortable sharing with their partner, I think it can bring you closer to them. And, it's a pattern that a lot of couples probably developed at, a younger age where they didn't feel safe expressing themselves. So if people can get comfortable expressing themselves, I think it just solves a lot of issues, So yeah, I would just say that.
I would say, like, kind of piggybacking on that a little bit, I wish more couples were more open about what hurts their feelings or what they need. I think like a lot of times we want like our partners to read our minds, or to kind of just like know things about each other. And it's not really how it works. You have to communicate. You have to express yourself.
Yeah.
You have to say, what you need and what you want, even if it's uncomfortable. So I would kind of agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we all have days that we're tired and something bothers us, we've talked about it a little bit earlier, but being able to talk through those moments, it's easier said than done, I think. And a lot of couples don't share that information. And I think it's just kind of getting curious about why don't you feel comfortable sharing that information?
Yeah. I think also one thing that I hope we get to do more of, because I don't know that we've experienced this a lot since we moved to Denver, but I feel like I really want us to have more fun in the coming years, I feel like we haven't had a lot of fun being in Denver, which being in Denver has been kind of a chapter of its own. But I just hope that the next few years for us are a lot of fun,
Yeah.
I really hope that.
I agree.
What's your favorite thing about being in a relationship with someone who does the work?
I'll say that you don't let things slide or go unspoken. It will get brought up, I think, and since you are doing the work, you're not analyzing, but you're looking at things that a lot of people might just dismiss or put to the side. You really are very thoughtful in this relationship and very intentional, and you bring things up that are uncomfortable. You bring things up sometimes that I don't want to talk about, but I think through the work, we've been able to. It's brought us closer for sure. Made us, the intimacy has helped through that.
Yeah, I would say my favorite thing about being in a relationship with you when you do your work, for one, it's really attractive that you're a man who does their work, like really attractive. I think like I tell you this all the time, but there's not a lot of guys out there who are doing the work that you're doing. So I think it's like there's a huge attraction piece for women to men who are like emotionally mature and like willing to do that work because it's not common. But I would say my favorite thing is that like through every single thing that you discover about yourself, it brings us closer because you let me into this part of your world that you wouldn't let a lot of other people in. And same for me too. I mean, when I went through my EMDR experience and I shared some of the stuff that came up during it, I was so afraid that you were going to think differently of me. And you were like, no, I don't judge you at all. I don't think anything differently about you because you went through this experience.
Right.
So I think like it just brings us so much closer. And it's also like for somebody who like knowing your wounds and knowing the avoidance that you struggle with or that you like kind of cling to, the fact that you even let me into your emotional world, I take that like really seriously as like a huge honor. So when you do talk to me about this stuff, I try to listen really well.
Yeah.
And I try to just be super present with you because I just know that that's what's going to bring us closer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's like, building something that's going to last, I think that that's nice when someone's doing the work because it's
when we're 80 years old and we're walking on the beach in Torrey Pines and we're talking about life and our kids are all grown. I just know that we're going to be so proud of ourselves and proud of each other for, how we've navigated like the ups and the downs, because we've navigated ups and downs and all things in between. And we've always come back together.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there anything else you want to add or anything else you want to talk about before we wrap up?
No. I enjoyed the conversation and hopefully people got something out of it. But yeah, I don't have anything.
I don't have anything either. I just want to thank you and I love you for coming on and finally doing this with me. It really, really means a lot to me that you like get out of your comfort zone a little bit and come on and do this. And I know that our relationship is we have a lot to share, and I'm glad we got to share it.
Yeah, me too.
Would you come on again?
Yeah.
Episode 200?
Yeah, there you go.
Every 100 episodes,
Yeah.
Tyler will come on. Babe, I love you. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Love you too. Peace.
Everybody, thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. If you like what you heard and you know that somebody in your life can benefit from this conversation, don't forget to share it with them. Comment below, leave us a review, let us know what you're taking away, even maybe some follow-up questions that we can answer in maybe episode 200. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, and review. And I will see you guys next week on the Heal with Cat podcast for episode 101. Thanks, guys.